And in response to kind of the overwhelming reaction to the current U.S. presidential administration and all of that, we had removed our restrictions on onboarding, right? So what we did, very similar to a doctor's office, we would only onboard so many clients at a time, just to make sure that quality and consistency and all of those things stayed tip top, right? But there was such an overwhelming demand to, relocate people after the last presidential election that we temporarily removed that restriction. So that time has passed. Those people who are going to make that move have already made that move. And so our standards are going back in place, and those restrictions are going back in place. So it starts this month. We are jumping on to get into it a little bit and then go from there. Let me work out this technical difficulty real quick here, and then we'll get into it. All right, there we go. Okay. TikTok, always coming in with the technical difficulties. All right, so that is it. We are going back to the way that we typically do business, which means that we will only accept a limited amount of clients, typically 8 per month. After which we will typically refer any overflow clients either to another service provider that we're confident in, or we will refer them to the next month. All right. So that is typically how we did business. We made an exception because of the overwhelming response to the last U.S. presidential election. That time has passed, and we are going back to the way that we do business best, quite frankly. So there's normally a starting point, an onboarding point. The onboarding point that we are implementing, at least right now in this quarter, is going to be a immigration starter pack. So we make sure that the immigration is done. We make sure that you're integrated into Kenya, as far as we get your driver's license converted, get you some classes if you feel like you need classes. A lot of our clients just convert their driver's license, though. It includes an apartment by the beach for the first year. So you'll be at an apartment site that is directly on what's called Beach Road. So there's a main road in Deani Beach. Everything on one side of the road, depending on which direction you're traveling, obviously it's the left or the right, but everything on one side of the road is touching the beach, and everything on the other side of the road is starting what we call phase two. So phase one side, right? Phase two is the side directly across the street from the beach. There's actually a little bit of across the street that's still technically phase one, but essentially anything that's across the street is phase two. And then there's another street, right? Another main road that takes you into Deani, and everything on the other side of that is phase three, right? And so you're actually technically phase one, so you're actually technically on that beach side, but you're directly across that street. So it's a pretty nice situation where you can wake up every morning, just walk across the road and be at the beach. So your rent is paid for the entire first year, and all of your immigration is done for the max of that permit. That costs $25,000, which is in alignment with the requirements to even get a residency permit up here. You guys remember the requirements are $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year. So if you qualify for the residency permit in the first place, then you should be able to qualify for this package. We typically set up our packages logically like that. Like we typically set them up in alignment with whatever the requirements are from the government side, so that everything is just flowing together. So that is the entrance level package. Now, if you've been with us for a while and you've been eyeing a specific type of package for a while, like you want to be able to relocate and not work anymore, so you want a bond ladder and all that. All those things are upgrades, and they can all be added on to the package and all of that stuff. But our base kind of intro onboarding package for this quarter is the 25,000, which includes maximum permit and immigration services. It also includes your integration into, the culture. So we'll take you around, we'll show you all the places, we'll assist you in converting your driver's license so that you can drive. So you can rent a car if you want, you can buy a car if you want, so on and so forth. Your rent, which is really the biggest part of it, your rent is paid for an entire year at a 2-bedroom apartment directly across the street from the beach, right? So you're able to just cross the street and go have breakfast. Typically at the beach, you have a lot of resorts and stuff like that. So there's a resort right directly across the street that allows people to walk in. You don't have to be, staying at the resort. You can go have breakfast, coffee, whatever, write in your journal every morning, whatever it is you do. Go exercise on the beach if you want, blah, 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 blah. Walk right back across the street and be home, right? So that is what we have set up for you guys this quarter. Again, it is 25K and essentially all inclusive to get you started in coming over here. Does not include a house. No, good question. But those are all upgrades. So if you do want a house built and all that stuff, those are all upgrades. All right, that is limited. So we are limiting our onboarding to 8 people per month like we used to in the past. Remember, the removal of our onboarding limit was in response to the overwhelming requests for immigration after the last U.S. presidential election. That time has passed now, so the people who were just talking about it are still talking about it. The people who were going to do something about it have already done something about it. So, so our standards are going back in place, where we are only onboarding 8 people per month. Why do we limit? So we limit it because it allows our standards to stay high, right? So if we're doing, like the month after the U.S. presidential election, we did like 87 people in the same month, right? People get forgotten when there's that many people flowing through the system at the same time. People don't get their their follow-up emails. People don't get checked on for a week, where we typically check on people every 2 days or whatever. People fall through the cracks, which is exactly why doctors' offices try to restrict how many patients they'll see in a day, to make sure that everybody gets looked over properly, that the doctor spends the right amount of time with people, so on and so forth. Right. That's how all specialists behave, not just doctors. They need enough time to diagnose the issue and to prescribe the solution, right? We just happen not to be doing medical. We happen to be doing information and generational wealth. But we need the exact same thing, right? We need to make sure that we have enough time to really pour in to our clients and make sure that they get everything they needed. Now, there was a special situation where there was a perceived, emergency, and people wanted to, do something about it. And so we responded to the client base and allowed them to onboard without restriction, so that they can get what they needed, right? But that was never supposed to be a forever thing. We let it go for about a year, and now we are going back to doing business the way we do it best, right? So that is why we are reinstituting our limits. Hey, Douglas, how are you? What's this? All right. So, not planning on being on here too long. Just wanted to jump in, let you guys know what's going on, kind of give you a bit of an update, and then go from there. Yes, you can see the entry point on the website. It should be big and bold, should be at the top. Sad. Website updated. Okay, yeah. So Website is updated, should be big and bold right at the top. You'll be able to see what all is included in there. But it is your full immigration package. It is your full integration package, as far as one of our people will take you all over the place, show you all of the things, show you all the hot spots, all the restaurants, all of that stuff. Connect you with any local connects that you might need to get by. Assist you in converting your driver's license and all of that. And just make sure that you're fully set up over here. Which the driver's license conversion also assists you in removing your nexus in back home, right? So if you're, especially if you're from the United States, your state will try to hold on to you for tax purposes if there's personal income tax in your state. So if you're from Florida, if you're from Delaware, where else? Maybe North Dakota. There's a couple states where they don't have personal income tax anyway, so they don't care, right? Texas is kind of like that as well. But if you're from a state that does have personal income tax, that state can try to hold on to you, and you have to prove that you have a different nexus, right? So you can do that a couple of different ways. You can either create a nexus in one of those states that doesn't have the personal income tax, right? A lot of people like North Dakota, because in North Dakota you can get a driver's license with a PO box. But you either do it that way, or you create your tax domicile wherever you've gone to, right? So having the driver's license here is one of the ways of proving that, right? Showing that, oh, no, I haven't renewed my U.S. driver's license, even if it's not expired. I haven't renewed my U.S. driver's license. Instead, I've gotten a driver's license somewhere else because I live there, right? So my tax domicile is there. I drive there. I don't drive, in New York anymore. And so that's not my tax domicile anymore. So a lot of folks are like, I don't plan on driving. Why would I need to convert my driver's license? There's always a reason for everything. And so it's not always about driving. Sometimes it's about indicating where your tax domicile is so that your state taxes can't screw with you. All right. Federal taxes are actually pretty straightforward. They're actually way easier once you leave the United States than when you were in the United States, right? Because you have a bunch of different programs. You have FTC, which stands for Foreign Tax Credit, where if you pay taxes somewhere else and you're living in that other place, then they deduct dollar for dollar the taxes you paid there against any taxes you might owe in the U.S. That's particularly helpful for people who have like Airbnbs and still have some kind of tax burden in the United States, because it can actually reduce your U.S. tax burden. Then there's something called the FEIE, which is the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, right? Normally you get a credit, right? You either get a credit or some sort of write-off, right? This is an exclusion. This excludes first, I think right now it's 136,000. Don't quote me because it changes every year as adjusted for inflation, but it's 130 something thousand, right? Which if you go to the actual IRS database instead of social media where everybody makes six figures and that ain't a lot of money anymore. But if you actually go to the IRS, you'll see that it's something like 9% of the country actually makes six figures. So all the people on social media are lying. And so for the exclusion to be 130 something, $1,000 a year, that means like 90% of Americans would qualify, if they left the country, to have all of their income excluded from federal taxes. They still have to do the tax return. So the paperwork still has to be filed. However, you would owe nothing as long as you were under the $130,000, right? So essentially, even though, yes, American citizens are taxed globally, as long as they're earning income, their earned income is essentially nil, unless they're in the top 10% of Americans. Now, that is earned income, not passive income, right? So you do have to kind of plan and structure your income, because if all your income is coming from like stocks and bonds and all of that stuff, and it's capital gains income, that's a whole different story. Okay, but that is one of the purposes of going ahead and getting that driver's license conversion and all that done is because it shows tax domicile. It can be part of the plethora of proof that you utilize to show that you don't owe New Jersey or New York or California taxes anymore, right? There are certain states that hold on a little harder than others. California is definitely one of them, all right? But that is one of the ways to prove that you don't have a tax domicile there. Also, not renewing your voter registration in that state is another way to prove that you do not have tax domicile there. But it's not a one-shot fix. It's a preponderance of the evidence. So it's all of your stuff combined that will convince that state government that you do not owe any taxes there anymore. All right. That was a good little question. No, I've only been on for 16 minutes. Remember, I don't do the lives anymore. We're starting like a YouTube show, which is going live now. And I'm not going to be on super long today either. We were doing the lives and all of that, and just trying to get you guys some Q&A stuff going. But especially on the YouTube side, those lives post. And so then there's like YouTube videos that are 3 hours long, and you can't edit lives. So we couldn't go in and like chop them up. So eventually we're actually going to end up deleting those and replacing them with like more digestible 45-minute clips. So this, I'll probably only be on for maybe 45 minutes on this live as well. So yeah, you didn't miss me. I didn't come on at 5 in the morning like I used to. 5 in the morning here. Guess it's like 10 p.m. where you are. Let's see. Hey, Darren, what's going on, man? How are you? Good to see you, brother. Hey, Fitness, how are you? Good, 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 good. How's the family? Everything all right? Good. Outstanding. Good. Mm, what about generational? What about generational wealth? I don't know what you're asking me. Oh, onboarding for generational wealth is relative. That's actually probably the lowest price onboarding that we have, actually, right? So yeah, there's no need for any kind of entrance special for that, because typically the person's not like moving or anything. Like our entrance special includes like rent and stuff like that, right? So that people can have a soft landing. So yeah, if you just want a generational wealth trust fund, just get in touch with our people and we'll set that up for you. Oh, very nice, brother. Very nice. Yeah, no. Have you taken the assessment on the website yet? No. So yeah, the assessment is free. Just go on your website and then do the generational wealth assessment. Not the merger and acquisitions assessment. You can do the relocation assessment if you want as well, but definitely the generational wealth assessment, and it'll break everything down to you and let you know if you qualify or not. But that's really our lowest entry point as far as, excuse me, what it costs to get involved. Because generational wealth trust funds are designed for people who like are not rich, right? Rich people have like asset protection trusts and got like all this other stuff already going on typically. And so we do different things with them when they show up. But for generational wealth, it's typically someone starting generational wealth, right? You're not continuing it by coming to us and getting a trust fund. Typically, sometimes you are, but that might be 5% of our business or something like that. So typically they're starting it, which means they don't have generational wealth, and most of the time means they don't have any wealth at all, right? And so it's a low entry point because what you're doing is you're compounding the money in the generational wealth trust over time, so that you don't need a lot of money to get started. You just need time to create money, right? And so that's typically how that goes. So it's not that difficult to get involved. It's not a very high threshold. Yes, yeah, yeah. You can start with structure and be unfunded. A lot of folks do that actually. They'll start unfunded and then they'll fund later. Yeah, well, go take the assessment, right? Because you may not even qualify. So if that's the case, then the assessment's going to tell you what you need to do to qualify in the future. So go take the assessment and see where you stand. Yeah, these are all business accounts. So the website is in the profile of the account. Just go ahead, jump on in there, go to the website. It's going to be one of the first things you see on the website. Take the assessment. It'll let you know what you qualify for, and then all of that's free. And then if you want to move on, then you can pay for a consultation. All right. All right, guys. Not really doing a Q&A session today. Just wanted to go ahead and update you guys as to going back to our roots policy-wise and moving forward from there. So you're going to see a lot about that. And then we're going to run this kind of soft landing onboarding for at least the full first quarter. We might go into the second quarter because obviously half of the first quarter is gone. So we'll see. Sometimes we change it up from quarter to quarter what the offering is going to be, and that essentially depends on what is taken, right? So we try to make sure that there are as many availabilities as we do offerings. So we do 8 people, and there are 8 apartments available, right? So when we get to those 8 people where we've hit our limit, for onboarding for that month, then we may change the offer because now all those apartments are gone, right? So that's why the offer adjusts from time to time. But for right now, it is an apartment across the street from the front row of the beach that will be paid for an entire year for you, so you don't have to worry about any rent for the entire year. And then we can get into all of your other stuff. You will have your permits done. So you'll have 2 to 3 years of permits that are taken care of for you. All your immigration work will be done. All your legal work will be done. All your integration work will be done. Your biometrics and all that. Everything is all paid for. So it is a bit of a all-inclusive package. All right, for at the entry level. So it doesn't include a house like the end of year package did last year. Doesn't include a car and all of that stuff. Those are all upgrades that you can have, but this is an entry level kind of all inclusive package. So you're able to relocate, you're able to have a place to live, like a temporary housing for a year, 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartment, fully furnished, right? Apartment's fully furnished. You don't have to go out and buy anything. You can if you want. Like we can remove all the furniture out. You can put your own stuff in if you want to do that. But that's obviously optional. So fully furnished, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, right across the street from the front row of the beach. Paid for a year. And then all of your immigration stuff taken care of. All right, so that is what we are doing for right now. Keep your eyes on all of our social media platforms for that. If you are signed up on any of our mailing lists, you will receive some email about that. As you guys know, we typically never email more than twice a month, so we don't We don't believe in spamming people. You will get that email from us if you are on our email list, and that might be one of the last emails you get for the quarter. All right, guys. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. Don't think if anybody has any last minute questions, I will go ahead and answer them since I am here. So you can go ahead and ask. Outside of that, I am going to call it. It looks like we're good. If some questions pop up, just put them in the comments of wherever you see this. And I will see you guys later. Peace, Darren. Have a good one, my friend.